Virginia Mellon is a woman who lives in Beverly Hills, and this is her nightstand. From the number of beauty products here, you can tell which capital sin this lady's going down for: vanity. When we see her pee in a jar first thing in the morning, you might think she's had a drug problem in the past or something like that. But no, that's part of her beauty routine. Yep, you heard me. The woman is applying urine to her face with a cotton square. Ew, gross. Her stepdaughter, Faye, reacts to the smell when she leans over for a good morning kiss, but Virginia lies to her, saying she has given up the pee treatment. It wasn't working anyway. Faye points out that it would still be disgusting if it worked, but it's easy for her to say that. She's still in her mid-30s, despite all the college books over the breakfast table. Now it's Virginia's turn to judge Faye's decisions. The only reason she is attending law school with much younger classmates is because her ex-husband doesn't make enough to provide her with a decent alimony, which means she failed to choose a proper spouse. In her defense, she says she did not marry Tim for money. But then she switches to a self-deprecating tone, whining about the finals and how she's bound to fail at that too. Virginia takes the pity bait and says Faye is a smart woman who can accomplish anything. And that's when we meet Bernie, the charming neighbor. Virginia has had a crush on him since forever. As a widow, she's free like a bird. But sadly, Bernie is married. Or is he? Faye has some hot gossip about that. Rumors of divorce. Virginia is excited at the news, but rejects the suggestion to go there and say hi. These things have to happen by accident, she says. What about a planned accident then? Faye also happens to have heard where Bernie buys his wine every Friday afternoon. A few hours later, Virginia heroically marches to Camden Way wine shop under tons of makeup, nervously checking the mirror all the time. A clerk comes by to ask, as politely as he can, if she plans to buy anything at all. She's been there for hours, just hovering the wine bottles like a ghost in a cellar. Just when she's considering calling it a day, Bernie comes in with a huge smile. He's very pleased to see her and says she looks wonderful. That gives her enough confidence to ask about his wife, Anita, and he confirms that they're no longer together. Unfortunately, that does not mean a vacancy. Bernie introduces her to the gorgeous Cassie. Virginia is even more embarrassed when the woman recognizes her from college. They were in the same dorm, and at the same time. How is that even possible? The moment Bernie steps away, both women cut the crap. Cassie promises to share the secret of her beauty under one condition. Virginia must stay away from Bernie. There's plenty of fish in the sea, and this one's hooked now. She agrees with her terms, and Cassie gives her a business card. Dr. Enid Pearl is the exact opposite of Virginia Mellon, and we're not talking about the way they look. While Virginia lives in a dark pit of shame and insecurity, you could not reach Dr. Pearl's self-esteem from the top of Mount Everest. With enough confidence to turn away a rich patient, she says Virginia is not ready for what she has to offer. A woman who describes herself as hideous is undeserving of true beauty. Virginia tries to call her bluff, but ends up bursting into tears and begging for her help. Confessing a total lack of self-love, she says she wants to become a person she could love. Dr. Pearl seems satisfied with that honesty and gives her a chance. It's not too late to be the woman she was meant to be. Then she starts to get into more detail about the treatment. This is not plastic surgery, or anything she has seen before, for that matter. It's taken her years of research and travel to perfect the rejuvenation techniques she performs. Because of that, she can't say exactly what the procedure is, not even to her patients. That's the moment when a sensible person would certainly get up and leave, of course. But this is Virginia, remember. She puts pee all over her face. And there's also a collection on the wall. A series of before and after photographs whispering, "This could be you, girl. What are you waiting for?" Next thing you know, Virginia is on the phone with Grady, her business manager, trying to justify the obscene amount of money she'll need. It turns out that she's not really that wealthy. Cherished memories are pretty much all her late husband left her, and what the hell is she gonna do with that? Grady tells her to forget about Dr. Pearl if she wants to keep the Bentley and the mansion. As the very down-to-earth lady she is, Virginia says she is prepared to drive a Mercedes instead. As Grady does not sound very impressed by that sacrifice, she threatens to fire him. At night, while putting God knows what on her cheeks, Virginia hears something outside. It's the abominable sound of other people's happiness. It's coming from Bernie's bedroom, and of course, he's not alone. The look on Cassie's face when she closes the curtains is of absolute triumph. To hell with the Bentley, then. Very pleased to take her check, Dr. Pearl says she'll throw in a pair of new hands. Knowing that hands are particularly resistant to any kind of intervention, Virginia wonders how she'll do that. But according to the document she has just signed, that's all she can do about it. Wonder. Everything Dr. Pearl does is surrounded by secrecy and mystery. Under a sedative, Virginia has her judgment reduced enough to voice a few comments about Dr. Pearl and her assistants. All of them have the same butterfly tattoo, which happens to be the logo of the clinic. Not weird enough? Fine. They are also chanting in Gaelic during the entire procedure, repeating a mantra that means beauty is truth. How about that? That night, Faye gets home in the middle of a storm and has a huge scare. Virginia looks like a mummy freshly out of the tomb. And to make things worse, her hands are so heavily wrapped in bandages she can barely use them. She's also in great pain and needs assistance to get some pills. Faye helps her out with that, but then she starts to say what she thinks about the whole thing. Grady, the business manager, called Faye earlier and told her about her mother's reckless decision. It seems like that little visit to the butcher may cost Faye's college tuition. Getting defensive, Virginia says she can get a student loan like everyone else and makes sure to remind her she is not her real daughter. Faye is deeply hurt by that last part and storms out. Virginia apologizes and begs her to stay, but she has already left. Combined with the thunderstorm, the heavy medication has a strange effect on Virginia. She hallucinates of a demon-like figure with red eyes chasing her around the house, while that same Gaelic chanting goes on and on relentlessly. She is rescued from that ordeal by Faye, who had a change of heart and decided to come back. In the morning, Virginia asks what made her return. She says she remembered some of her own past mistakes. For example, when she was a teenager and got a bizarre haircut. She knew that would drive her bio-mom crazy because she cared too much about looks. Seems her dad has a type then. But the point is their fight went so far that Faye even destroyed a delicate necklace that was actually a family heirloom. She immediately regretted it, but it was too late. Her mom was very sad to lose the only thing she still had from her grandma. And all this story is to say that she has now decided to be supportive and help Virginia get through that tough first week. Promising to try and not judge, she asks her what exactly the treatment is. Virginia says it's just a facelift. One advantage of the bandages is that she doesn't have to worry about keeping a straight face when lying through her teeth like that. On the day after that, she has a follow-up appointment. Pearl says her recovery is coming a little slower than most patients, but nothing to worry about. The swelling sensation is also expected. The bandages will be ready to come off in a day or so. Virginia says it feels deeper than skin level, and she also relays some of Faye's concerns about the extent of the transformation. About to lose her temper, Pearl says she does not work only at skin level. Virginia has hired a unique service with the exact purpose of achieving dramatic results. Everything is going just according to plan, not afraid to overstep her boundaries. Pearl also says she should take a break from her stepdaughter. Any doctor will tell you that a patient's peace of mind is essential to a swift and complete recovery, and Faye seems to be getting in the way. Virginia is of the same opinion, but she points out that it's really hard to go about the day without using her hands. She needs Faye's help right now, and she has no one else to turn to. That's when another layer of mystery is added to the whole affair. Pearl starts talking about a place where all her needs will be taken care of by a group of supportive people with a positive attitude towards the situation. It's her private retreat in the Santa Monica Mountains. She's having a special gathering this weekend, and would be glad to have her there. Free of charge, of course. This is actually an annual event with all of her patients to celebrate the life-changing improvement to their faces. And their hands too, of course. She says there's medically trained staff up there, and they won't be silently judging her up and down like her jealous stepdaughter. Ignoring the striking weirdness of such an invitation, Virginia can't accept it fast enough. She doesn't even have the exact location of the property, as Dr. Pearl prefers to keep it a secret for privacy reasons. Faye is understandably suspicious of that shady trip and all the secrecy. On top of that, she has done some online research and couldn't find Pearl's medical degree anywhere. From the college legal database, she also learned about 3 different malpractice lawsuits. But Faye forgets she is talking about the person who has just messed with that face they haven't even seen yet. Virginia won't believe anything she has to say against Pearl because she doesn't want to believe it. And that makes her reason-proof for the time being. So off she goes with Pearl's driver, up the winding roads that lead to Pearl's sanctuary. Arriving there, she claims to feel better already. Every staff member is very helpful and nice, but Virginia begins to feel uncomfortable as she walks towards the accommodations. Pearl had described this as a get-together of her patients, but there's a lot more people than expected, and Virginia seems to be the only one whose bandages are still on. By now, it should be obvious to Dr. Pearl how self-conscious she is, and a heads up about that would have been nice. Now she can't help but feel like everyone is staring at butchered face. Even prettier than usual in her social attire, Pearl welcomes her with a hug. She dismisses her worries by saying she must remember what this is. Everyone here is the same, and they all know what she is going through. She's among her peers now, soon to be her friends. It doesn't get any safer than that. So Pearl takes her inside to examine the state of her bandages. They look ready to come off, but the eccentric doctor has yet another wild idea. She asks if Virginia would agree to have the bandages removed at the little gathering they are having tonight. That is, in front of absolutely everyone. She says those people may look like this incredibly inaccessible elite, but deep down, they are all just part of a big loving family. As you can imagine, Virginia is uneasy at the thought of such a public reveal. But Pearl says she should be reassured by such an outlandish request. That can only mean that Pearl herself is totally confident the results are amazing, as she certainly wouldn't make a spectacle out of her own failure. That seems to appease Virginia's anxiety about it. So she puts her body and soul once again in the hands of that fascinating doctor. Little does she know who's about to crash the party. Unable to shake her concerns, Faye had managed to hide in the back of the SUV to follow her stepmother all the way here. But whatever her plans might be, Dr. Pearl's security team won't let them happen. At twilight, it's time for the big event. Received under applause, Enid Pearl begins an enigmatic speech, celebrating another year of prosperity in this selected society. While the rest of the world takes the highway to hell, these people around her still keep climbing the stairway in the opposite direction. Tonight, they are once again expressing their gratitude for a life full of health and wealth. And here comes the guest of honor. Pearl introduces Virginia Mellon to the crowd, explaining that she has just had the procedure and was kind enough to share her special moment with them. There's a round of applause while Pearl takes her to a chair in the center of an elevated stage. Virginia thanks the audience for their warmth and says she can't remember being this happy. But before the ceremony goes on, there is a little situation that must be sorted. Faye is carried near the stage by 2 guards, screaming at everyone. Pearl says she has violated the strict rules of this gathering and must answer for that. Virginia quickly explains that she had no idea she had been followed and has nothing to do with that young woman's actions. She's not even her real mother after all. As the guards take her away to face whatever punishment they see fit, Pearl tells the audience to forget about that unpleasant interruption and focus on Virginia. She's told to close her eyes and sit still while a skillful team begins to remove the bandages from her head and her hands at the same time. Holding a small mirror, Virginia needs a moment to understand who that pig-like creature is. She lifts up her hands to touch that horror, and they have also been monstrously modified. Her desperate screams are muffled by the audience in a coordinated chanting of that Gaelic mantra. Pearl begins to praise Etain, the butterfly deity who demands this sacrifice. Once a year, the ugliness is put in swine form to be slain before that altar, in exchange for everlasting beauty and youth. The ritual also requires a certain level of challenge, which is why there is a hunt. Virginia will be given a 2-minute head start. The ocean is 2 miles away. She'll be free to go if she can get there before being caught by one of the beautiful. Virginia has a hard time to believe what she has gotten herself into and still seems to hope this is an elaborate prank. Pearl does her best to clarify the situation, explaining that she could never ever dream of becoming one of the beautiful. She has always been the pig. Now that's something that kind of rings true for her. Looking at the sharp spear each guest is holding, Virginia decides she'd better listen to the instructions and start running. She soon finds herself lost in the woods and too tired to keep running. That's when the good-looking horde comes for her. Bernie and Cassie are with them too, of course. That's how she was lured in. Virginia never stopped to think that she hadn't seen Cassie suddenly rejuvenated. That's because there is no procedure whatsoever. Cassie just hasn't aged like everyone else. She's been a butterfly worshiper since birth, and there is no other way to join. The truth is Virginia has never stood a chance, and now she meets her fate. Faye is brought near her, but surprisingly, not as a punishment. Pearl urges her to remember that butterfly necklace her grandma has passed on. Unlike Virginia, Faye is a rightful member of the beautiful, and it's high time she claimed her status. The last thing we see is a very different Faye on campus, meeting a charming young man who has the same tattoo. And this is the end. This was a recap of Facelift, the 6th episode in American Horror Stories, Season 2 by 20th Television, and Ryan Murphy, starring Judith Light and Rebecca Dayan. So, who do you think was the true villain in this story? Did Faye succumb to temptation too quickly? Or did Virginia get what she deserved? Let us know in the comments below with #CinemaRecap. Until next time.